Please stand up for the anthem for the winner, anthem of Slovenia. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Please take up your trophies. And prepare for a group photo. Congratulations to the winners of race 1 of Junior Cup. Nick Stefancic, Luka Glaser, Tom Grünfeld.
Good afternoon, everyone, wherever you are around the world. It's afternoon here at the Slovakia Ring for the first round of TCR Europe for 2021. And already the safety car heading around for its reconnaissance laps. And the grid is formed. We have the national anthems from the previous support race playing in the background. But our focus is purely on TCR Europe. And with Tom Coronel, a very familiar figure to many of you on the pole position. It's a beautiful day today, under sunny conditions, the track temperature up to 20 degrees now, air temperature 16, and expected to increase further as we go into tomorrow's second race. Qualifying took place early this morning in much colder temperatures than this, and really this is the hottest that the drivers have experienced the Slovakia Ring this weekend on brand new Hankook tyres. We have an eclectic mix of 22 different drivers from many a different nation, driving many a different car. The Audi RS3, the Hyundai i30N, the Honda Civic Type R, the Cupra, two types of Cupra here, and in fact the Hyundai Elantra makes its debut in TCR Europe as well. Names that you'll be very familiar with from many a season, including champion from 2018, Ashkana, and last year's champion, Mehdi Banani. Mato Homla, though, the local hero, has been waiting for years to have a race here at the Slovakia Ring, and already an issue, the car being wheeled back into the garage. He reported power steering problems for that car in qualifying. He did half a lap without power steering and said it was impossible to drive. And unfortunately, it does look as though Mato Homla will not start this first race of the championship. Tom Coronel, though, will, and on the pole position. 10 points for grabbing pole position from qualifying this morning. He was also fast in wet free practice 2 and was right up there in free practice 1, although didn't set an ultimate fast time in free practice 1 because he wanted to do a full race stint on those Hankook tyres. So he has knowledge of how the tyres will work over 11 laps. Mikel Ashkina, however, is a little less sure. Now, he's been driving all kinds of different cars with all kinds of different setups. Fastest in free practice 1, second on the grid. Still a clear sight down to the turn 1, and it's a long, long way down to turn 1 and not much of a braking zone. So Ashkina has an opportunity to get down the inside of Coronel into the first turn if he gets a good start, but doesn't know how those Hankook tyres will last to the end of the race. Nicola Bart, best experience for him at this circuit so far. Really struggled last year and very happy to be third on the grid in this qualifying session. Put it down to confidence in the car and knowledge of the circuit. Last time he was here was for the world stage and really lacked understanding of really how to get the car around. Now, Come To You Racing, his father's team, has really done a great job. 3 Audi RS3s in the top 4 on the grid, with Dusan Borkovic making his debut in an Audi. Not a debut, of course, in this championship. We've seen him over the last couple of years here. Missed last season after issues the season before. But it's great to have Dusan back. And here is the rest of the grid. Daniel Naj in the older style Cupra in 5th position, with the first of the Hondas of Franco Girolami in 6th spot. Gavrilov in 7th position and Callejas in 8th spot in the Brutal Fish Honda, the first of those. Then we have the first of the Elantras, which is Felice Yelmini, and Mehdi Benani alongside him, with Leonov and Homola will not start in 12th position. Then Niels Lagerveld, another of the Hyundai Elantras, run by Sebastian Loeb Racing, and Joachim Galash in 14th position. Jimmy Claret, the first of the Peugeots. His brother, unfortunately, ended up in the gravel trap in Q1, so starts the tail of the field. Martin Rieber looks to be the only Slovakian to take the start of this first race. Davidovsky, Jack Young was another man to miss out and I think had an issue with his car. And then Sami Taufluik, Sylvain Poussier, Gilles Colombani and Teddy Claret starts the tail of the field. He will be making up progress, no doubt about it, from 22nd on the grid. Cars on their warm-up lap. They don't know how hard to push these Hankook tyres. Many have not done a full race distance on them, certainly not in these kind of temperatures, certainly not on a track that is so hard on tyres like the Slovakia Ring is. Why is it? It's because it's kind of medium speed. There's a few slow speed corners, but mainly there's medium and accelerating corners, opening corners, which kind of tear the tyres apart. And reports are that the Hankook tyre is a much more durable tyre than we've seen in previous years. Maybe not quite as durable as when we first started the TCR Championships with the Michelin, but certainly better than what we experienced last year, and that should provide us with better racing. As I say, we don't necessarily know if we're going to have the tyres keep the same pace throughout 11 laps. They certainly don't have the peakiness that we saw from other tyres. Many talking about the Yokohama last year being a tyre that was great for qualifying. It had a great peak. You could lean on it and feel it, but only for one lap. And then for the race, it was a bit of a nightmare to get to the flag, and sometimes you would not really have much rubber left when you got to the flag. Not expecting those kind of issues from these Hankooks. Everyone seems to be a lot happier, even if they don't necessarily have the ultimate peakiness of the Yokies. There is Adriana Borkovic and sister. Lovely to catch up with Adriana before the start of this race. And Dusan as well, very happy to be back in a paddock that is competitive, racing in the Central European Championship last year, and ultimately dominated the championship, to be fair, and found it hard to really be motivated when you dominate so much. And as Tom Coronel said in our interview at the end of qualifying, he'd rather have a good, entertaining battle than disappear out the front. And I don't think he's going to have the chance to disappear out the front because Ashkina is confident that he's got a car underneath him. And to be honest, Nicola Bat and Dusan Borkovic I'm expecting to keep Tom honest as well. Can anybody else? Well, Daniel Naj has the experience and the pace to do so. We don't necessarily know how his car stacks up in comparison to the Competition, which is the slightly newer Cupra. Although saying that, Daniel Naj is in the newer Cupra. There it is, all in white coming through pictures. So he has the same equipment, not necessarily the same team. He's run by Zengo Motorsport here. Zengo just entering one car here to Slovakia, which is a bit of a shame, knowing that they've got a few more in their pocket if they need to. And perhaps when we get to the second round of the championship in Paul Ricard, we'll see a few more Zengos. So the race will be 10 laps. I'm sure it was 11. I've obviously read somewhere wrongly. And that will take us around 22 to 25 minutes. Cars gridding up, making sure to leave that gap where Matto Homela should be, but will not be. Teddy Claret at the tail of the field, with his Claret Sport teammates in the Cupras just ahead of him. The green flag flies at the tail of the field, and we're getting ready to kick off the 2021 season of TCR Europe. Who makes a good start? It's not a good start from Dusan Borkovic. Better start from Tom Coronel, but probably the best start from the Cupra of Mikael Ashkenaut on the left-hand side, on the inside line going through the first corner, and he has already got the lead of the race, and Tom Coronel has to defend from Daniel Naj, who fancies an opportunity to go up the inside of Nicolas Bart, but kind of gets boxed in behind the two Audis. Everybody else has managed to get through the first corner cleanly. No, they haven't. Gavrilov is around and spinning in the middle of the pack. There's a couple of other cars scattering to avoid him. Didn't see who's made contact with him there. The Clem Gavrilov starting in 7th position and is now at the very tail of the field. Cars screaming down into turn 3. Coronel on the defensive from his teammate Nicolas Bart, who's trying to go all the way around the outside. There's plenty of these long corners, and Tom shuts the door. He needs to be careful not to be too aggressive with the son of the team owner, but still they will battle and battle hard too for honours of the Audis. Dusan Borkovic, I think, holds on to 5th position, so only lost 1 spot to Daniel Naj. Or is that a Honda? I think that might be a Honda. So where has Dusan Borkovic gone? Davidovsky, I think, also might have an issue. We'll wait before they come across the first timing line. Yeah, where is Dusan? Dusan's fallen way down into 8th or 9th position, at least behind the 2 Elantras and behind Leonov as well that we see there. So it's not been a very good start, and I wonder whether Dusan was involved in that contact. First time out in the Audi for Dusan Borkovic. First time on these Hankook tyres, not necessarily knowing exactly how hard you can rev the engine at the start of the race. And there's the first of the Elantras going grass tracking. Franco Girolami has also made a poor start. I thought that was the Honda that we could see there in 4th position. Clearly not. And now battle between Jelmini and Team Etnies Langeveld, who's swapping positions here. That is the best of our Elantras, with Mehdi Banani behind Leonov. So Ashkina, Coronel, Bart, Naj, Kaeas is the best of the Hondas, and Girolami has fallen way down the field. So Girolami's had a very poor start down at 14th. Dusan is 10th, and Gavrilov is limping back to pit lane. Mehdi Banani up the inside of Leonov, so that's a position kind of half gained. He hasn't quite completed it yet, but the next corner will help Mehdi complete that, but doesn't have the straight line speed into turn 2 and backs out of it to allow Evgeny Leonov 8th position to hold on to 8th position. Mehdi stays in 9th and will now have a hard-charging Dusan Borkovic behind him. We know that Audi's got the pace. Dusan just not getting the bite at the start of the race. Franco Girolami. I'm going to attribute Franco with the slight contact with Evgeny, and maybe Dusan had to get out the throttle to avoid having contact, because at one point Gavrilov was across the circuit broadside at one of the fastest parts of the circuit. Jimmy Claret comes into pits in his Peugeot. Can't visibly see anything wrong. There might be a little bit of contact on the front end, but it's not been a very happy time for either of the Clarets. Davidovski is another car who I don't think has even taken the start. So we've got lots of issues out there. Now Leonov being slightly mugged. Homola, Bernani desperately trying to get past him, and he needs to because Dushan will be pushing him hard as well. Meanwhile, attacking is the best of the Elantras, which is Niels Langeveldt on the brakes, down the inside, and Isidro Callejas has got no answer to that. He's found himself in a very, very strong position at the start of this race, but now as everyone gets into their rhythm, I think the pace is maybe will go against the slightly inexperienced Spaniard, with Pepe Arreola guiding him. He's made it a fantastic start, and now he just needs to be careful not to get in too much physicality. Dusan Borkovic down the inside of Mehdi Bernani. The circuit is so wide into turn one, and they nearly went 3 wide. But I think, oh no, that has compromised Dusan. About to say, I think that Dushan had made it stick, but I think he had to get out of the throttle because Leonov was in the way, and now Bernani attacks Leonov. They go side by side through turn 2. And still can't get the move done, and now Borkovic has to defend from Yelmini as well, which puts him on the inside line, and oh, Leonov's outbraked himself and opened the door to 3 very, very talented competitors. Still a little bit side by side between himself and Yelmini. Oh no, sorry, that's Yelmini there. So hang on a second, I'm getting confused. It's Tauflik, isn't it, who's got himself involved. So it's Bernani and Tauflik, who we didn't see much pace from in the practice sessions, but he's certainly got his head down at the start of this race. Coronel with Nicolas Bart behind him. Then Naj, Langeveld, Callejas, Yelmini, Bernani, Leonov, Borkovic and Tauflik. Doesn't really help Sebastian Loeb Racing that all of your cars look basically the same. But, you know, as a commentator, that's my only moan. 3 wide, surely that's not going to work. No, bit of contact. And Galash gets bullied out of the way by Jack Young, who was trying to go up the inside of Davidovski. Davidovski is there, but on my timing screen doesn't exist. So presumably somebody's forgotten to put his transponder on, or it just doesn't work. Either way, that would put him in like somewhere around 13th position. And in fact, they've got Colombani and Poussier in there as well. So the 1-lap pace of the 2 Frenchmen and the Cupras was not massively strong, but their race pace much better, and they're right in there. And I can tell you, Leonov has now lost the position to Tauflik, and Jakob Galash has really been bullied. He's lost 4 positions. We saw one of them. Oh, and Coronel's lost a position also to Nicolas Bart. I think that must have been into turn 1. So Bart up to 2nd, Coronel drops to 3rd, and Daniel Naj is there too. It's all go. Gosh, are we nearly halfway through this race? It doesn't feel like it's even started. Meanwhile, Ashkenar has a 3.6 second lead. Oh, what's Teddy Claret doing? I guess. I can't work out if he's going the right way or the wrong way. Either way, he's going backwards. And Coronel is struggling at this stage in the race. Now, I know, we all know, that Coronel managed to do a full race distance here on those tyres. And therefore, is he preserving whilst others are pushing? It's a massive unknown for these guys running on Hankooks for the first time on a track that is very highly abrasive and in temperatures that are increasing every second. And Coronel, for me, is one of the drivers that has the most information about how to get these tyres to the end of the race in a good form. So if you try and push too hard... Oh, OK, let's go for a replay of the start then. And it was a very, literally a poor getaway from Borkovic didn't have the revs in the right place, and that's down to a lack of experience in the car. The initial bite was okay, and then it bogged down. And meanwhile, it was relatively equal in front between Coronel and Ashkanab, but Ashkanab with a slightly better enough to get down the inside into turn 1. And that's all he needs to do to now have the lead by 3.6 seconds. There is visibly the lead, and Coronel's dropped down to 4th spot now. Coronel behind Daniel Naj. So Cooper getting up the pace, and here comes Niels Langeveld. Dutchman on Dutchman, and Niels goes down the inside, and Coronel is dropping like a stone. Down to 5th position now, fights back. The two of them with the same helmet, with the same cheese sponsor. What is going on with Coronel? I'm now thinking he might have an issue with his car, because the pace is nowhere near where it should be. His last lap, a 2:14.6, compares to Ashkanab, who is 2 seconds faster. Coronel was one of the slowest cars on the track on that last lap, and it might just be that his rhythm was upset by people overtaking him. It could also be that the Dutchman has an issue. Further back, you've got to say that this debut for the Elantra is certainly looking stronger than we thought on Friday. Mehdi Benani giving Felice Yelmini the hurry up, and they go side by side, teammates at Sebastian Loeb Racing. Are they going to be leaning on each other? Felice doesn't have a huge amount of TCR experience. Obviously, Mehdi Benani, one of the veterans of touring car racing as a whole. And Yelmini runs a little bit wide. Ooh, it gets on the grass, and that gets him very, very loose and wide. And who's behind him? It's Dusan Borkovic, that surely should be able to take advantage of that, a lack of momentum, but the straight is not quite long enough for him. And he's going to have to wait until the next section of turns. Of course, Yelmini will be in the car going, I don't know why it did that. That feels odd. It oversteered when I turned in. You won't necessarily know that he had his rear wheels on the grass, and that's why it oversteered. So he might be a little bit spooked here, and this could be the opportunity for Dusan to move himself up into 8th position. We still have half a race left of this opening encounter. Seven rounds of the championship, 14 races. 2 drop scores as well. That could play a part when we come later into the season with drivers that are able to do the full championship. There are a couple that have other priorities, other races, or simply COVID restrictions might stop certain drivers from certain countries entering certain different countries. And that is why the very intelligent people at TCR Europe put in a drop score weekend. I don't like it. I know many don't like it. Oh, that could be a big one. He hits the Gabriele Tarquini bump and goes flying in the air. And Isidro Callejas loses 1 position, but Adela spooked him, and he'll lose more for sure. Mehdi Benani up to 7th position, Callejas down to 8th, and with Felice Yelmini just behind him. And also, look at the front end now, full of grass. The guys here at Slovakia Ring making the track look beautifully presentable. And there, you can't really see it from that particular camera angle, but he gets a slide on, he corrects, and that just sends him a little bit wide enough into the gravel and then onto the grass. And we know from Mr. Tarquini's experience here, was that last year or 2 years ago, that there is a bump right there on the access road, and it can send you flying. It does look as though it wasn't quite as big a bump as Gabriele hit in his experience, but could easily have done a little bit of damage to the suspension. But more concerningly for me will be that radiator. As I say, the Slovakian guys have prepared this track beautifully. The grass has been cut after a winter, and always a cold winter here in the centre of Slovakia. Cut grass is not a friend of the engine. Yelmini now defending from Sami Tauflik, his teammate. Definitely finding pace in this race. maybe Jalmini struggling to keep his tyres alive with his lack of experience. Side by side, the two Sebastian Loeb Racing Elantras. Brand new car for the TCR Championships across the world. And Isidro Calles is going to lose a position to Dusan Borkovic into turn 1. But Borkovic will move up into 7th, therefore. And he's already moved up into 8th, thanks to that battle with Felice 1 lap before. Niels Langebeld looking very fast. He's definitely got the handle of this car. Remember, he started in 13th position, or 12th if you take away Matto Homola from the equation, who should have started in the top 12 spots. But Langebeld has really found pace in this car where his other teammates have not. And Daniel Naj is on the podium right now, so that is 3rd place that Niels Langebeld is looking at. And that would be a very impressive debut for the Elantra that Andrea Adamo, I'm sure, will be monitoring. No rallies to be paying attention to this weekend, or I'm sure there is somewhere in the world, but he'll be very interested to see the Elantra participating here in TCR Europe. Hyundai now with the i30 on offer, the Velostar Speedster in certain parts of Europe. Actually, a car I really loved. Saw it years ago. It's actually quite an old model of Hyundai. The Elantra, a brand new model, and now part of the TCR offering 3 different models of car. The Elantra 25 centimeters longer than the i30 and with a 10 centimeter longer wheelbase. Should suit a track like this. Coronel comes through the shot. 2:13.6 was his last lap. That's the same pace that Ashkanar did. Ashkanar's done a 2:13.1, which has been matched by Bart, and 2:13.6 from Niels Langebeld and Coronel. So the tyres definitely now, with a couple of laps to go, starting to fall away. Oh, Coronel's under pressure from Banani. So maybe Loeb Racing have been working hard on longevity of these Hankook tyres. I really thought that Coronel would have the longevity nailed, but it doesn't look at the moment as though he has. Ashkenaz's lead has dropped slightly to Nicolas Bart. 3.2 is the gap now, but I'm sure he is driving within himself. Just now trying to get the car to the end of the race. Bear in mind, the best lap of the race has been set by Mikael Ashkanar at a 2:10.5. We're now running at the 2:13 mark. So that gives you an idea of how much these tyres are dropping off. Naj and Langebeld. Both drivers with world experience as well as European experience in new cars. Oh, it's been an awful day for the Clares. Just seen Teddy Clares' car come past my window on the back of a tow truck. So both Clares out. Matto Homola didn't start, and Gavrilov got bullied at the first corner. It's under investigation, but we haven't seen anything more than that, so not entirely sure what happened. I'm sure we'll get ourselves a replay at the end of the race to give us another look at it. So Taufik has got past Jalmini and now is putting Isidro Calles under pressure for 8th spot. And here is Evgeny Leonov putting Jalmini under pressure. That'll be for 10th spot. Points down to 15th position, where Viktor Davidovsky is being now put manually onto our timing screens. Out of the points, Colombani, Poussier, Galash, and those that have retired. Amazingly, that Kayesh is still running with that amount of grass in the radiator. It's obviously not affecting the engine enough. but certainly one of the biggest moments that we've saw. Now let's check in with our leader. That's the problem when you dominate, Mikael. You don't get not very much TV time, but from the very start, Ashkenar has led away. The 2018, would you believe, champion. Completely forgot that Josh, well, I've obviously lost a couple of years of my life as well, because in my head, Ashkenar was champion about 2 years ago. But Mehdi Banani champion last year in TCR Europe, Josh Files the year before that, and Ashkenar basically the first champion that was a full championship. TCR Europe existed before that as a one kind of race final, and it was also a kind of point scoring from other regional races. I quite like that idea that different regional races contributed towards a Europe championship, and that's how it originally started. Nicolas Bert done a really good job, hasn't he? I think slightly surprised himself with his pace in qualifying. Much better than last year is what he said to myself when I had a chat with him. But honestly, this has been a really, really impressive performance, and he's kept the pace up. So Daniel Naj has not been able to really threaten. Ashkenar is going to come across the line to start the last lap. And there's a 1.5 second gap between Bart and Naj, or there was at the start of that last lap. It's come down to 1 second. Langeveld in fourth hasn't been able to find a way past Daniel Naj. And then Coronel's dropped 5.5 back and has Mehdi Banani behind him. Like we see a little swap of positions between Coronel and Banani. Banani's going to start race 2, by the way, on the pole position. And by the looks of the performance of the Elantras, that could be a good place to start, especially as he has a teammate alongside him as well. So they'll be locking out the front row of the grid. And Niels Langeveld, definitely the fastest of the quartet of Sebastian Loeb Racing cars. But Niels is just going to miss out on giving the Elantra its maiden podium by the looks of things. And we're going to have 2 Cupras and an Audi on our podium. Field spread pretty big. We've still got cars coming across the line now at the tail end of our field. 30 seconds separating the top 15 drivers. With Franco Girolami. Oh, now who's that? 26. That is Isidro Callejas. And what the whole rear axle's broken off on the left-hand side. Now that is suspension damage, isn't it, from earlier on? It's no wonder he went for a wild ride. He's literally gone into the braking zone at, I think, turn 3. Oh, and now the wheels decided to try and finish the race on his own. But that will be simply down to jumping over the grass a couple of laps ago. And finally, the suspension said no more. Thank you very much. That's a shame, though, because he had a great start into the top 5 and was going to score decent points. But unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get himself limped home with enough pace to score points. Although he could try, because Davidovsky's going to get a point down in 15th, and he's 33 seconds back. Let's see. Anyway, final lap, final corner, and Miguel Ashkenar continues where he left off last year and grabs another victory in TCR Europe. It was 3 last year in the final 4 races, and he starts the season with a victory here in Slovakia Ring. 2nd to Nicolas Bart, 3rd to Daniel Naj, and Niels Langeveld for the Elantra Sebastian Loeb team just missing out on the top 3 podiums. The rest of the cars streaming across the line, and I'm afraid Isidro Callejas is going to drop outside of the points by the looks of things. His teammates come across the line, Jack Young and Martin Rieber together. Rieber in 11th spot. And it does mean Sylvain Poussier gets himself a point in 15th, but great delight from Volcan Motorsport. Not only Ashkenar takes victory, but their second car, 10th spot for Evgeny Leonov. And that is a great way to kick off their campaign. Ashkenar, one of those drivers, has got multiple programs across the touring car world. And therefore, every point will count if he has to drop scores here in our European Championship. As I say, came in with Vulcan Motorsport in Spa of last year, and since rejoining TCR at that weekend has only missed out once on the top step of the podium. That was in the last race of last season. So that is 4 wins in 5 races. That's quite a feat. Bearing in mind, when he won the championship back in 2018, he only took 1 victory in the whole year. What's going on here? Oh, the old lift back to the pits for Isidro Calles. Not quite as spectacular as Ayrton Senna sitting on the side of a Formula 1 car, because you can't see it. But anyway, that's kind. Not a particularly comfortable thing to do, I can tell you, having been a child sitting in the passenger seat that isn't a seat, and sitting on hot electrics. And of course, the floor of the car gets quite hot as well, because the exhaust runs through the metal floor and conducts all its heat into the floor. So he might have a little burnt bomb by the time he gets home. Championship points then after the first round of the championship, and of course qualifying. Ashkenar taking 49 points, Bart 43, Naj 36, and Coronel drops to 4th with 34. And that is the accumulation of points for race 1 and for qualifying. Well, that was a pretty entertaining, pretty frenetic race, really, wasn't it? Plenty of moving around. It's true that the tyres definitely give up a bit of performance in the last couple of laps, looking at the lap times. And certainly people with lots to learn as to how to get these tyres at this circuit to the end of the race. And we're going to be hotter tomorrow as well, by the looks of things. Longueval doing the best of the Elantra's job, and to be honest, considering he started 12th and was pretty downbeat when he spoke to Mark James in the middle of qualifying, he should be very, very happy with P4. For a moment he sniffed 3rd spot, but just couldn't quite get there in the end. I was looking forward to my beer with Tom Coronel later, if he took victory, but he might not be in I mean, actually, he's always in the spirit of party, so I'm sure we can have a celebratory beer afterwards. I'm not sure if the Vulcan team have aperitivo, but we're going to try that too, I suppose. Nice job to Michael Ashkenar, winner here in Slovakia for the first race of TCR Europe for 2021. And not only has he won his first race, but he spent a lot of the weekend helping other Cupra drivers around the paddock get the best out of their Cupra car. When you're this good, everybody wants a piece of you. Nicola Bart should be happy too. And now looks like the marshals, Slovakian marshals, having a mother's meeting about how to remove a car with only 3 wheels from a gravel trap. Yeah, good effort, Nicola. Best of the Audis and better than both of your far older and more experienced teammates. So should be well chuffed with that down at Come To You Racing. There is Dusan Borkovic. No, it's not. It's Daniel Naj. Sorry about that. Oh, dear. Apologies to both Dusan and Daniel for getting you mixed up. I don't know how I got that mixed up. And Daniel will be getting on the podium. Of course, my TV director showing me 1, 2, 3. How silly of me. So here is the provisional result then. There is an investigation into turn 1. We don't know exactly what happened there, but Ashkenar takes victory by 3.3 over the Audi of Nicola Bart. And Daniel Naj in 3rd position, with Niels Langeveld missing out on the podium in 4th, but best of the Elantras. Coronel, Banani, Borkovic, Tauflik in 8th. That was an improving result for Sami. And then Yelmini in 9th, dropped off at the end. Leonov picking up the top 10. Points down to 15th, so Martin Rieber, Jack Young, Franco Girolami, Viktor Davidovsky, and Sylvain Poussier picks up a point for 15th position. teammate Gilles Colombani missing out in 16th and Joachim Galash 17th. Then those that retired. Galash losing a wheel after a bit of a excursion in the middle part of the race, and the suspension finally said no. The Clares both out, and Klim Gavrov finishing after one lap. Mato Homola didn't even start.
Mikael, fantastic start to the season. Well done.
Thank you very much. Yeah, safe race, honestly, but I did really good start. I saw Tom Coronel on the start. He had too much wheel spin, in my opinion, so I could take the inside line for the first corner, and from that moment, first 2 laps I pushed really hard, and that's the reason my opinion, I pushed really hard, and after that I hit too much the front tires. But yes, on this moment I have a big gap between the second driver, so very comfortable pace for me, and from that moment, yeah, just keep pushing, not doing any mistakes, and yeah, that was my race. Very safe, but not relaxed.
There was lots going on behind you, but I guess you weren't worried about that.
Yeah, the key point was, I think, the first corners. The first corners I saw some overtakes from behind, and I used this opportunity to make a big gap, you know. Yeah, like I said, the first 2 laps I pushed really fast, and I lost too much grip in the front, so then I decided to don't kill the front tires too much, and yeah, just keep pushing on a normal pace, and yeah, very safe race.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Bravo, Mikel. A sensible man with a sensible head on his shoulders, to be honest. Felt those front tyres starting to go on. Oh yeah, there's Dusan Borkovic. Looks a bit different to Daniel Nash, doesn't he? How's he feeling after the first race in an Audi? Disappointment, I suppose, losing so many positions on that first lap and then kind of compromising himself for the rest of the race. Sits in 6th position in the championship. Early doors, of course, with 14 rounds. Don't forget, we do drop 2. So even though we have 22 cars here, if we have other cars enter next weekend and they do the full season, they have equal chance of winning the championship than all of our entries this weekend as well. Points down to 15, so we've got 17 drivers already with points on the board. Just Colombani, Galash and Mato Homola, and the 2 Clares with no points to their name. Well, let's entertain with the highlights from race 1 here in Slovakia. Well, a little bit of drama for our first TCR Europe race, a little bit of work for some of the mechanics to do. Most notably, Yannick Motorsport need to get Mato Homola out on the circuit in his home race. He's been waiting so many years to have the opportunity to do that, and unfortunately, power steering issues in qualifying did not remedy themselves. And when I spoke to him, he was a bit dubious about the fact that they could get the car out, and that was quite a surprise to me, because power steering should be an easy thing to fix, but it wasn't. No Mato Homola. We did have Daniel Nash.
Nicolas Bert of Belgium.
And Nicolas Bert gets himself onto the podium. But it was Mikael Ashkina who jumps on to another podium. And it will be Ashkina who leads the championship into tomorrow. Oh, the teams championship could be an interesting one because obviously 3 different teams.
And now we stand up for the national anthem of winning driver.
But now it's the national anthem of Spain.
Congratulations to our winning drivers. And now some picture moment. Congratulations, and now it's time for
Nicolas Albert with a couple of podiums and a win last year in the TCR Europe Series. So no stranger to the podium. Martin Rieber also on the podium for effectively the Masters championship that we have. And Mikael Ashkina just checking to make sure we can spray the champagne, make sure everyone's got a washing machine before tomorrow's races. And plenty of support races here, and therefore plenty of support for our TCR Europe races. Well, join us tomorrow. We've got the second entertainment for you. Coming up around lunchtime, so a nice, don't have to wake up too early, but make sure you join. Race 2, where Mehdi Banani and the Elantra will be on the pole position. What can he do from 10th? Join us tomorrow, bye-bye.
Victory in Slovakia Ring. Very good feeling. Ne, ešte máme ten endurance.